Hey, welcome back to Visibility Vixen. We're listening to episode 28.
Welcome to the Visibility Vixen podcast, where we create space to grow our brand with intention and clarity, one episode at a time. Join us as we explore the many aspects of entrepreneurship, start loving the journey instead of the destination, and begin building a legacy that lasts. Here's your host, Michelle Lewis.
Okay, everyone, welcome to today's show of Visibility Vixen. We are so excited to be here with you today, and I am bringing my good friend and fellow collaborator, Kristin Marquet, to the show. Welcome, Kristin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's exciting stuff. So I'm really excited about this because Kristin and we met a couple months ago and we hopped on the phone because we wanted to figure out how can we work together. At least I was a huge admirer of hers and she had found me in a group. And so that's kind of how this relationship started. And we kind of figured out she's the amazing expert at PR. And
thank you.
I think I know some stuff about branding. So we were able to put both of that together. And we are actually launching a challenge that starts today. Exciting. And it's called Perfecting Your Pitch. So Kristin, tell them a little bit about what we're going to be teaching them.
Okay, yeah, awesome. So I'm so excited that we are collaborating on this project. But essentially, we want to help small business owners, across a variety of verticals, how to put together a cohesive brand and how to use that brand to generate media coverage for their business. And I'm not talking about local and regional media coverage. I'm talking about national media coverage in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and, the Today Show.
The big stuff.
The big stuff that's going to be a game changer in your business. But anyway, okay. So the challenge is going to focus on how to put together a cohesive brand story, how to pick the right colors, how to come up with the right marketing messages, brand messages, how to incorporate your expertise into the overall brand messaging, and how to use that brand messaging in putting together a publicity campaign or a PR campaign, and how to stand out and just connect with your audience on a very intimate level. This is not rocket science, guys. Working in the industry for 12 years, I think I've learned a little bit about PR, and Michelle being the queen of branding, I think that she knows a lot. Just don't discount your knowledge, Michelle. You did. No self-deprecating behavior.
Yes,
you're the
ma'am.
queen of branding.
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, we just want to teach you guys everything that you need to know to have a cohesive brand so that you can start getting media coverage in early 2017, because the new year is right around the corner.
Well, and I think that probably a lot of people are sitting there going, this is rocket science. Like, I have no idea where to start. And know that you're not alone. When I started out, I had no idea. That's before I understood what branding was. That's before I thought to put my doctorate in natural medicine together with my background in TV film to really, truly understand color. That came with time. And more importantly, it came with clarity. I think the worst thing that you can do is, and I've been there myself, is be in that state of confusion, because confusion breeds inactivity and more confusion and inactivity. And all of a sudden 6 months have gone by, your website hasn't changed, your message hasn't changed. Maybe you don't even know what your message is. And oh my God, it's just become a huge mess. So know that you're not alone in that, but that's the reason why Kristin and I are coming together, because it's really a perfect fit to be able to understand truly what your brand is, why you have the certain colors you have, and then get the clarity that Kristin's talking about so that you can confidently present yourself and stand out from the herd of people that have been in that confused state that you used to be in. So I think that this is a really amazing challenge. We're going to dive into it more at the end of the show. But today we just kind of wanted to give you a glimpse into good branding, bad branding, how that affects PR, and to just give you some actionable strategies. So I hope that you enjoy it. I wish I would have known this stuff when I first started out. But let's kind of start with you, Kristin. Talk to them a little bit about, because they haven't met you before, this is your first time on the show, your background and how you became this PR expert.
Okay. So interestingly enough, I graduated from college and I had a degree in literature. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just started applying to jobs. And I luckily ended up as a PR manager for an international law firm. It was pretty high level, learned a lot, met a lot of really interesting people. But after a year, I decided that I didn't want to be there anymore. So then I left and became the head of communications for a huge international management consulting firm. And then after 4 years, I left and I went out on my own. Mm-hmm. The last 7.5, 8 years, I have had my agency. And more recently, I've started a consultancy to help entrepreneurs that can't afford to hire a PR firm, because hiring PR firm starts at $3,000 a month and not a lot of small businesses can afford that. And lifestyle and business has kind of become the servicing arm to creative development agency. And I have one small office in New York City on Park Avenue, have 4 employees with myself. And that's who I am. I also lecture part-time at NYU. I went to grad school there, and it's awesome. I love it.
That's so cool. So take us through, just like, you don't have to name the client, but take us through maybe one of your clients that you've helped that came to you and like maybe had, not a huge following, and where you've been able to take them because of what you know.
This is a great question and a great scenario. 4 years ago, I had a 21-year-old handbag designer right out of school, fully funded by her family, and she wanted to get media coverage for the launch of her business. Mm-hmm. And initially, we started with her local region. She was from Louisiana. No, she was from Texas. So we started in her local area. She did a few television shows, and then we started building out her brand. And over the course of a year, she ended up getting featured in Marie Claire, Vogue, Ebony, Essence. I mean, there was a whole long line of publications, like 22-year-old designer of the year. She got into the CFDA incubator program. Like, she won the Handbag 101 awards in 2012, 2013. I mean, this girl really came from, like, had nothing. And then by the time that we were done, we were able to build out the infrastructure of her brand through doing publicity. And that's how she was able to get her clothes on Rihanna, her handbags on Rihanna and Lady Gaga. And now she is a big brand.
So my mouth is like on the floor right now. Kristin and I are doing this via Skype, and I'm like staring at her with these huge eyes, and my mouth is like on the floor. That is amazing. I'm just sitting here going, oh my gosh, if I would have had that clarity at 21, holy moly. Well, that is quite the calling card, and what an amazing experience. Wow.
But let's just backtrack for a second. When she came to me first, she didn't have any idea about her brand positioning. Mm-hmm. She didn't know what her brand messaging was, what made her different from all the other handbag brands out there. And we sat down and we had numerous brainstorming sessions, and we were able to come up with, this 21-year-old emerging handbag designer from the South. She had a very, very rough upbringing. She pretty much raised herself. And, as she got older, she came into money from her family. So that's how she was able to fund, the growth of her business. But it all started with building out her brand infrastructure. Wow. We had to look at how her target audience would perceive her logo and her brand messaging and her website and her lookbooks and her models, her ad campaigns, and everything from, the simplest piece of a brand, which is your logo, all the way on up to the larger publicity. And it was great. She and I worked together for 4 years. And now she's on a little bit of a break, but she's definitely one of my better. I'm not going to say better, but she's definitely one of the bigger success stories, because a lot of the brands that I work with are already notable.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't really have that much more to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But working with somebody, that had all the odds against her, and she became this national. Yeah. And now she's actually sold in Nordstrom.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So amazing.
Yeah, but it was no easy feat. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
It was tough,
Mm-hmm.
but it was worth it. And I'm glad to see that she is doing really well.
That's
and thriving.
Fantastic. That's so fantastic, because I feel like a lot of people, especially the ladies listening, they're just starting out, and they're maybe a life coach or a health coach that tends to be, there's a lot of them out there, And right. So starting out, you're sitting there looking in Facebook groups and looking at different websites and going, oh my gosh, like how am I ever going to stand out or make anything different? And I think that's what's so important about why Kristin and I came together. So we're really excited to talk to you today. So let's kind of talk about what crappy branding does. I don't know if any person would look at their website and be like, oh, I have such a crappy brand. But I know when I started out, I had a crappy brand, and it's not because my website wasn't beautiful. It was nice. I used Squarespace, which I love, but there was no cohesiveness between my photos, my messaging. I'd gone through a course that was like what copy to put on each page. And so I had no idea, So it's no surprise that I didn't get anywhere, but I feel like that's where a lot of us start out because we don't know any better. So Kristin's going to talk a little bit about what she's experienced with people coming with crappy brands and what that does to your, I guess, growth potential.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody's going to take you seriously if your website is just, if the images aren't high quality, mm-hmm. if the copy, if you have issues, grammatical issues, syntax issues with the copy on your website, if your social media portals aren't full of activity, the media particularly, they're not going to take you seriously. So just so that you guys know, if you do end up pitching yourself to a magazine or a blogger or a website like BuzzFeed, an editor is going to do some research. They're going to Google you. They're going to want to see what your website looks like, what your marketing collateral looks like, and how your social media profiles look. Mm-hmm. And if they're not full and the copy is bad and the images are bad and your website takes forever to load and your logo looks like 5-year-olds put it together, nobody's going to take you seriously. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the first issue when it comes to building your brand and building your reputation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let's talk about because the word when we were talking before that really stood out to me was consistency. Mm-hmm. And I think that ties perfectly as we transition into what good branding can do for you. Can we talk a little bit about kind of what you're looking for, how people can start going, okay, these are the things I need to start becoming consistent in order to build up my brand, to be able to start pitching myself in different places?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, you need to make sure that the copy that you use on your website is all in the same voice. If you flip open an issue of Cosmo and then you flip open an issue of Vogue, you're going to see their voices are two very, very distinct, mm-hmm. But they're consistent mm-hmm. across all their platforms. So that would be the first thing that you want to make sure, that the voice and the tone is consistent. The second thing would be you want to make sure that your colors all make sense. If you have purple and orange, they most of the time won't work, not unless you have maybe like a neutral color to tie it together.
Right.
You also want to make sure if your voice is more professional, that you're not using fluorescent pink, mm-hmm. Because it's not going to work. It's going to be inconsistent. Exactly. So those would be the two things that you would want to start with. You also want to make sure that the overall layout of your website matches with the copy that you're using. So if the tone that you're using is witty and sarcastic, you want to have your layout be very simple and minimal, because where you're trying to captivate your audience or an editor or a journalist is going to be more about the copy, not so much about the imagery. So it just, does that make sense?
It makes sense to me. And I think to expand upon that, what was very interesting when I held a branding color masterclass is that the women that came, when I asked them what branding was, they weren't really sure. And I think there can be some murkiness on that. And then when I said, why did you choose the colors that you have right now on your website? They liked the colors, but they didn't know the purpose behind the colors. And that's such a huge thing, which we're going to go into more on the challenge. But you have to know that if you're talking to people about relationships, you're going to want to be much more in the purple family than if you're helping people find their voice. Then you're going to want to be in the green family. So that's just a little taste of when you can really confidently stand behind your colors because you know what they mean. And that affects your overall color palette, which then affects your messaging. And I think, at least for me, I was kind of hiding different aspects of my past because I saw them as not panning out as what I thought, or possible failures or whatever. And when I started bringing them into my branding, meaning that I'm a visibility expert because I've had all of this amazing experience in film and TV, I noticed not only a change in how I presented myself, but how people responded to me. And so I think that that's a really key thing, is to not be afraid of the fact that you are going to be unique in your brand and bring in, how you've maybe, I wouldn't say like, oh, I've failed at all these things, but what has your previous experience been that's created this coaching in you? So if you are a life coach, well, why is that? Is it because everything in your life has always gone perfect? Or is it because you've been this, from rags to riches, from the ashes kind of story, like the girl with the handbags that you were talking about?
Right.
Makes it so powerful.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And, just to touch on your point about when we were first starting out, I didn't really know that much about small business branding and, what the different color schemes meant. And my first website was bright purple with, like blue text. It was the ugliest thing that you can possibly imagine. And then throughout the years, my brand has evolved. At one point it was pink and purple with butterflies, and now it's bright red, and the copy is very just in your face. And, I tell it like the way it is, no bullshit. And because that's who I am. And that's, even though it's taken, 36 years to figure out who I am and how to get here, I'm glad I have. And even though a lot of people, not a lot, but certain people may get offended with some of the language that I might use, that's okay. They're not my target audience, and they're not the person or the people that I want to work with. And I think that the thing if there's one thing that you're going to take away from this interview or this conversation that Michelle and I are having is, you can't please everybody. And when you're first starting out, you want to focus on one person. And then once you built out your ideal client, then you can expand to other audiences. And that's really what it comes down to. The foundation of your brand should speak to that one person that you're trying to target.
Definitely. And I think sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by your business because you're letting your business define you instead of you coming in your true voice into your business. And that's when I saw a huge shift. And that's why I tell people now, I'm like, no, your business is a side effect of the self-work that you're doing. Like, trust me, because once you start doing that self-work, you'll watch the business grow, even though you're not really necessarily doing anything different. You're not expanding more energy into it at all. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you.
So let's talk about, you've got someone that comes to you with a clear logo, great site design, cohesive copy, their color palettes together, their positioning statements together, their photography is consistent. They've got a great package. So then the next step would be you coming in and helping them kind of get their voice with all of these different channels to pitch themselves, correct?
Correct.
What does that transition look like?
Okay. And for the most part, clients are happy to kind of turn things over to me. Once in a while, I might get some resistance, but what that transition looks like is, we'll sit down, we'll have a meeting, we'll figure out, we'll distill down their brand messages even further for each different media outlet or each different type of beat that we're going to be pitching. Mm-hmm. And then, we'll create press materials or pitch letters. Each one is customized to fit the tone and the style of the publication that you're pitching. And that could be for the company itself. It could be for a product, a brand, a book, pitching somebody as an expert, but it's essentially priming them so that they understand what makes them unique, how they can stand out, and essentially how they're going to be able to help that journalist or television producer's readers or viewers, and help that journalist or television producer do their job, provide value.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, I think that this is just amazing. And I think you were talking earlier about before we started this call, we were talking about it, the 3 messages. So can you talk a little bit about how Apple has mastered this?
Yeah, a lot of the bigger brands have, but I just like to use Apple as an example because everybody knows Apple. Mm-hmm. And Apple essentially has become the go-to gadget or gizmo that has incorporated itself into every aspect of our lives, right? Mm-hmm. So there's the functionality, there's the convenience, and there's the affordability factor. Those are kind of like the 3 prime messages that Apple has. But just to kind of take that one step further, I help my clients, whether they're at the agency level or the consultancy level, distill down what each one of those messaging buckets is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And I think that Apple is a great example to illustrate how we do that, Does that make sense?
It does. So what do you think their primary message, how would that be encapsulated for Apple? Okay.
So essentially for the overarching brand, it's accessibility. Mm-hmm. It's convenience because, each one of the products is very convenient to carry, and affordability. Mm. The products are on par, in terms of pricing, are on par with Samsung and a lot of the other technology or cell phone and tablet companies out there. But Apple has really mastered the market positioning with the affordability and with the functionality. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
It does. It totally does. Okay. I'm feeling our listeners' head kind of spinning right now, and I'm going, okay, everything's going to be fine. Let's bring it back down to just the part of going, what makes you different? What makes your brand different? And if you don't have the answer right now, that's okay. You should definitely join our challenge, but that's okay, because maybe you need to do some reflection in terms of the different things that got you here. I did this exercise when I started trying to figure out how to bring my story more into my emails with my subscribers. And I wrote down all these different things that happened to me throughout my life. So an example is when I was 4, we kind of had a farm growing up, and I would grab twine from the hay bales and I would wrap them very gently around the chickens to make a leash so I could walk my chickens around the property.
That is so funny. I love it.
So a totally random story that you would probably just totally forget, but there's a lot of metaphorical stuff in that. I mean, even at 4, I wanted to organize things. I wanted to lead things despite it being a chicken. It was very important to me at the time, and fast forward to different things, traveling, if you've traveled anywhere or whatever things make you unique, it can just kind of start getting your wheels turning of how you can speak specifically to your audience in a way that no one else can. So hopefully that's helped you take a deep breath and go, okay, I think I can do this. So now Kristin and I are going to transition and talk to you a little bit more about this challenge. What's really exciting and what we're really, really thrilled about is that we're doing a giveaway. So You enter the challenge, you join the Facebook group. We're going to take you through 5 days of getting your perfect publication. It's called Perfecting Your Pitch. And then we're giving an amazing giveaway away. So I want Kristin to speak to that.
Of course, but I just want to backtrack for a second before we dive into the specifics of the giveaway. Within the challenge itself, I'm going to give you guys a number of worksheets, but one more specifically that will help you figure out exactly what makes you different and what makes your brand or yourself newsworthy. There are about 40 different themes or points that I'm going to give you for consideration. So I just don't want you to feel like, or, be panicking, like how you're going to try and construct this brand story kind of based on nothing. So, but I'm going to give you those wonderful tips. Okay. So in this giveaway, it's called the Preston Branding Primer Package. We are going to be giving one lucky winner, Michelle's The Color Deck, which is essentially a color deck, and it helps you determine what colors you should pick for your company, for your brand, kind of based on your personality and what area of specialty you're in. We're also going to give you the Branding for Beginners booklet, and we are also going to give you a copy of my PR Rockstar course, which includes a PR plan, pitches that I've constructed for my clients that have generated coverage in outlets like the Huffington Post, Pop Sugar, the Today Show, Glamour Magazine, Bella Magazine, you name it, we're going to include it. And we're also going to be giving you one 60-minute coaching session with both of us. And in that coaching session, you'll be able to ask us whatever you want, be able to pick our brains for that 60 minutes. And the total value on that is $1,200.
Woohoo.
So I know that if I were just starting a business, or even if I had a business, I could probably benefit from this even now. But I would definitely, I would love the opportunity to chat with somebody who's been in the PR world for 12 years and somebody that has been working in branding, for as long as I've known. So
definitely. I think what's really cool about this is you're going to get so much actionability from the challenge, and you're going to be, by the end of the challenge, you're going to be able to pitch yourself in a very presentable way so that you can get onto guest blogs and podcasts and different features, which is fantastic. But to be able to win this giveaway, it's going to take you to that next level to really help you go, okay, how do I go even further? How do I represent myself even more powerfully? What are my next steps? So we're so excited to be doing this together. We're thrilled to be doing a live challenge with you. We're going to be live streaming in the group every day. You can ask us any questions that you have, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. To be honest, this is the first time that I've really, I feel like I've been in the Facebook entrepreneurial group space for a while and have never really been around or seen a lot from PR experts. So to be able to meet Kristin and see what she can bring to the table is freaking fantastic. So if you're interested in that, we are going to have the link below. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, you can hit those 3 dots next to this podcast and you're going to see view full description. Click on that baby and you're going to see the clickable links. I'm going to put them all throughout the copy so you're not going to be able to miss it. And we are just so thrilled to have you guys in this challenge. So Kristin, this has been fantastic. Thank you for coming on. And I feel like our audience has definitely benefited for us talking all things branding and PR.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. And I really hope that this conversation is valuable to our listeners.
Absolutely. So we will see you inside the challenge. And if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, we'll see you next week back on the show.
Thanks for listening in today to the Visibility Vixen podcast. Subscribe now and share with a fellow Vixen who wants to start building their visibility. For more fire in your life and brand, Visit visibilityvixen.com.